Before we begin, drop a comment letting us know where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to like and subscribe for more heartfelt stories. Now, settle in and enjoy the story. Isabella stared at the single candle on the small slice of vanilla cake. She hadn't even bothered with a full cake this year. 32. That's how old she turned today. A number she used to imagine celebrating with a house full of children and a husband who adored her. Instead, she sat alone in a silent kitchen, her wedding ring resting on the counter beside the untouched dessert. He hadn't even looked her in the eyes when he left. No warning, no apology, just 4 chilling words. I want a divorce. She laughed, a hollow cracking sound, then quickly pressed a hand to her lips. Not from humor, but from shock. Even now, 12 hours later, her mind kept replaying it like a broken record. The man she loved for 8 years, married for 5, had walked out of her life on her birthday, and he didn't even have the decency to pretend he was sorry. Tears slipped down her cheeks as her phone buzzed with another empty notification. No happy birthday messages from friends. No calls. No family. Everyone had grown distant in recent years. Her marriage had consumed her, and now there was nothing left. She pushed the cake away and stood. The quiet of the apartment felt suffocating. The silence too loud. Grabbing her coat, she stepped outside into the chill of the evening air. She didn't know where she was going. Sebastian Hale hated black tie galas, but he attended them anyway because they were good for business. And tonight's event at the Clarion Hotel was no exception. He could already hear the forced laughter and the clink of wine glasses echoing from the ballroom entrance as he stepped out of his limousine, tall, composed, and dressed in an all-black tailored tuxedo. He looked every inch the billionaire everyone assumed he was. But inside, he was tired. Tired of fake conversations. Tired of the gold diggers. Tired of the boardroom politics masked behind charm and flirtation. He had planned to make a quick appearance and leave. But fate had other plans. As his driver pulled away and the doorman greeted him, Sebastian noticed a figure sitting on the hotel's garden bench across the entrance, slouched, wrapped in a long beige coat, and clearly crying. He paused. Something pulled at him. He didn't usually pay attention to strangers on the street. But there was something about the way her shoulders shook silently, the way she sat alone while everyone else was going somewhere. It struck him deeply. He found himself walking toward her before he even realized it. Isabella didn't look up when the man approached. She didn't care anymore. Let people stare. Let them judge. Let the world see a woman abandoned on the day she should have felt most special. But then a low, deep voice spoke beside her. Excuse me, are you okay? She looked up slowly, expecting maybe an old man or a passerby offering pity. Instead, her tear-stained eyes met a pair of intense, gray eyes. Sharp, kind, curious. The man was tall, undeniably attractive, and dressed like he belonged in a James Bond movie. His jawline was defined, his expression concerned, but not intrusive. He looked out of place in this moment, yet oddly right. She sniffled. Do I look okay? The corner of his mouth twitched. Fair point. There was a pause. She trailed off and shook her head. I'm not usually like this. He sat beside her, not too close, but not too far. It's your birthday, isn't it? He asked softly. She looked at him confused. How do you know? He motioned toward the small paper bag she dropped beside the bench, the kind a bakery uses for single cakes. Lucky guess. She exhaled slowly. My husband left me today, on my birthday. A silence settled between them. Not awkward, just heavy. Sebastian swallowed hard. He hadn't expected her honesty. Most people hide behind masks, but she didn't. I'm sorry, he said genuinely. Isabella stared into the distance. I don't know why I told you that. Sometimes talking to strangers is easier. Another silence. She turned to him suddenly. Who are you? He gave a small smile. Sebastian. You, Isabella. They shook hands, formal, despite everything. And then, for reasons neither of them could explain, they didn't move. They just sat there, side by side, in silence. It was the beginning of everything. The minutes stretched on, but neither of them seemed eager to break the moment. The hum of cars passing by, the distant music from the hotel ballroom, and the faint rustle of trees in the night breeze surrounded them like a quiet orchestra. Sebastian glanced at her from the corner of his eye. Her face carried a rawness that was both vulnerable and beautiful. Tear stains clung to her cheeks, but her features were delicate. Soft lips, high cheekbones, and large, expressive brown eyes that flickered with sorrow. She didn't attempt to hide her pain behind makeup or forced smiles. And maybe that's what struck him most. She was real. He'd been surrounded by polished perfection for years. Models, actresses, heiresses, all trying to impress him. But this woman, broken and honest, sitting on a public bench, pulled something from deep inside him that he hadn't felt in years. "Do you want to come inside?" he asked suddenly, surprising even himself. She blinked. "Inside?" He nodded toward the hotel. "There's a lounge inside. It's quiet. Warmer too." Isabella hesitated. She should say no. She didn't know this man, but something about his calm energy felt safe. Not predatory. Not fake. Safe. "I shouldn't." "You don't have to talk," he offered gently. "Just sit. I'll get you coffee." Her lips curved into the faintest smile. "Coffee sounds nice." Inside the hotel lounge, the lighting was dim and cozy, designed for wealthy guests seeking privacy. A small corner booth became their shelter. Sebastian ordered 2 coffees, black for him, sweetened with cream for her, after she shyly admitted she couldn't handle bitter coffee. Isabella wrapped both hands around her cup, savoring the warmth. The world outside already felt far away. "You don't have to talk if you don't want to," Sebastian repeated, watching her carefully. "No," she whispered. "I think I need to." And slowly, the dam inside her broke. She spoke of her husband, Daniel, how they met in college, married young, built a life together. How slowly their marriage crumbled under unspoken resentments and unmet expectations. How her dreams of starting a family were constantly postponed for his career. And finally, how he stood across from her that morning and ended it all without hesitation. Sebastian said nothing, letting her speak, letting her bleed out the pain she had clearly bottled for years. When she finally paused, breathless, her eyes were glassy but dry. "I'm sorry," she murmured. "I didn't mean to dump all that on you." "Don't apologize," Sebastian said softly. "I'm honored you trusted me with it." His sincerity startled her. Most people offered empty platitudes, but his words felt genuine. She studied him. "And you? What's your story?" He hesitated. No one ever asked him that. "My story," he glanced out the window before answering. "Work has consumed most of my life. Business, boardrooms, mergers. A never-ending machine that chews you up if you pause for too long." She listened, intrigued. "Along the way I lost people," he continued, voice lower now. "Friends who became enemies. Lovers who cared more about my bank account than me. Family. Well, family was never really there to begin with." Isabella felt a strange ache in her chest. She had assumed he was just another rich man, but his pain ran just as deep as hers, only hidden behind suits and billion-dollar companies. "And yet," he added with a small, sad smile, "here we are, 2 broken people sharing coffee like old friends." She chuckled softly. "Maybe we're not as broken as we think." His smile widened. Maybe she was right. 2 hours later, the conversation flowed effortlessly, like old souls reconnecting after lifetimes apart. They discussed books, favorite childhood movies, funny stories, and even their worst first dates. Time became irrelevant. For the first time all day, Isabella forgot the crushing weight on her chest. When the clock struck midnight, Sebastian noticed the subtle shift in her posture, her head tilting slightly, her eyes heavier. "Come on," he said gently, standing and offering his hand. "I'll call you a cab." She hesitated. Her pride didn't want charity, but his voice was so kind. "Please," he added softly, "let me do this, as a small gift for your birthday." She smiled shyly and took his hand. It was warm, firm, reassuring. As they walked toward the lobby, neither wanted the night to end. Outside, as the cab arrived, he opened the door for her, but paused before she stepped inside. "May I see you again?" he asked, voice careful but hopeful. Isabella froze for a beat. The divorce papers were still fresh. Her heart was still sore, but something inside her whispered, "Yes, you can," she said softly. "But I don't even know your last name." "Sebastian Hale." Her eyes widened slightly. She knew the name. Everyone did. one of the city's wealthiest men. But she didn't react with awe, only quiet understanding. "And you already know mine," she whispered back. He smiled. "Good night, Isabella." "Good night, Sebastian." As the cab drove away, Isabella leaned her head against the window, staring at the stars. She didn't know where this would lead, but for the first time in years, something small and delicate bloomed inside her chest. Hope. 2 days passed. 2 long days filled with restless sleep, half-eaten meals, and 1,000 questions swirling in Isabella's mind. She had tried to convince herself it was just a kind stranger who showed up on the worst day of her life. A momentary comfort, a brief flicker of connection that didn't mean anything. But deep down, she knew that wasn't true. His voice still echoed in her mind. His steady eyes. The way he listened, really listened. Without trying to fix her, she hadn't felt that seen in years. So when her phone vibrated late Wednesday afternoon, and she saw a number she didn't recognize, her heart jumped. She answered cautiously. "Hello, Isabella?" She knew that voice instantly. "Sebastian. I hope it's okay I called." Her lips curled into a smile before she could stop them. "Of course. I was just surprised." There was a pause on his end. "I've been thinking about you." Her breath caught. "Would you like to have dinner with me tonight?" Isabella stepped out of the elevator, nerves fluttering in her stomach. She had never worn a dress like this before. Deep emerald green, with an open back and a slit-up one leg. It wasn't extravagant, just elegant. She had borrowed it from a friend at the last minute, unsure whether she'd even go. But now, as she spotted him at a candlelit table near the edge of the rooftop, she was glad she had said yes. Sebastian stood as she approached. His tailored charcoal suit and black shirt made him look devastatingly handsome. Not cold or arrogant, but confident. Secure. "You look," he paused, eyes softening, "like the best decision I've made in a long time." A flush crept up her neck. "Thank you. You clean up pretty well yourself." He chuckled and pulled her chair out. Dinner was a dance, not a flirtation, but understanding. They shared stories from their childhoods, laughed over their mutual fear of birds, and discovered they both secretly loved cheesy 90s rom-coms. For a man who wielded power like a sword, Sebastian spoke with surprising humility. He didn't dominate the conversation. He leaned in when she spoke, asked questions, listened. "I always thought billionaires were cold," Isabella admitted over dessert. He raised an eyebrow. "And now," she smiled, "now I think they're just people. Some of them, anyway." He reached across the table, brushing his fingers lightly over her knuckles. "I hope I'm one of the better ones." "You are," she said softly. The night sky wrapped around them, stars blinking in quiet approval. Sebastian walked her to her door. "I had a wonderful evening," he said. "Surely." "So did I," she replied, turning to face him. He hesitated, his gaze dropping to her lips for a split second before pulling back. "I won't kiss you tonight," he said gently. She blinked. "Why not?" "Because I don't want to rush this. Not when it could be something." Her heart did a strange, warm flip. "Good night, Isabella." She watched him walk away, her fingers still tingling from where he had touched her hand. Meanwhile, in a dark apartment on the other side of the city, Daniel, her ex-husband, scrolled through his phone, eyes narrowing as he paused on a photo posted by a hotel guest. There she was, Isabella, smiling, with him, Sebastian Hale. Daniel's jaw clenched. So she moved on already? He tossed the phone across the couch and poured himself a drink, trying to drown the sting in his chest. But it was too late. The billionaire had entered the picture, and Daniel was no longer the most important man in her life. The following weeks unfolded like something out of a dream. Sebastian and Isabella spent more time together. Quiet dinners, long walks in the park, late-night conversations that drifted into the early hours of the morning. With every meeting, their connection grew deeper, more intricate, like two vines weaving together in perfect symmetry. Isabella found herself laughing again, smiling for no reason, waking up with excitement instead of dread. Sebastian was nothing like Daniel. Where Daniel had criticized, Sebastian encouraged. Where Daniel dismissed, Sebastian listened. Where Daniel controlled, Sebastian offered freedom. But it wasn't just about how he treated her. It was him, his kindness, his vulnerability, and his surprising sense of humor beneath that powerful exterior. "Tell me something you've never told anyone," Sebastian asked, his voice soft in the warm summer air. Isabella bit her lip. She stared out at the glittering skyline for a moment before answering. When I was married to Daniel, I used to sit in the bathtub and pretend I was underwater, just floating, trying to feel weightless, because I felt so heavy all the time. Sebastian's expression softened. His eyes filled with a tenderness that made her chest ache. He reached for her hand, squeezing it gently. You'll never have to feel that way again. I know, she whispered, blinking back sudden tears. And for the record, he added, his lips quirking into a smile, if you ever want to float, I have an infinity pool, much more comfortable than a bathtub. She laughed, the heaviness lifting. In that moment, Isabella realized she wasn't just falling for him. She was trusting him, something she hadn't done with anyone in years. Daniel wasn't done. The more photos surfaced online, the more restless he became. He began making calls, digging into Sebastian's world, fueled by bitterness and regret. This isn't over, he muttered into his glass one night. Not by a long shot. A few days later, Sebastian invited Isabella to his estate, a sprawling property just outside the city, complete with towering oak trees, lush gardens, and a house that looked like it belonged on the cover of a luxury magazine. As his driver pulled up to the front entrance, Isabella gasped. Sebastian, it's stunning. He smiled as he helped her out of the car. It's just a house. The only thing that makes it feel alive. Her cheeks flushed. He took her on a tour. The massive library filled with leather-bound classics. The sunlit conservatory with exotic plants. The art gallery showcasing both modern pieces and sentimental family heirlooms. But it wasn't the wealth that overwhelmed her. It was how he spoke about it all. My mother loved this room, he said quietly as they stood in the conservatory. She used to sit here and read for hours. She must have been a wonderful woman. There was a pause, heavier this time. She passed when I was 20. Cancer. His voice caught slightly. She never got to see this house. I built it in her honor. Isabella's heart twisted. Without thinking, she reached up and cupped his cheek. She'd be proud of you. Sebastian leaned into her touch, closing his eyes briefly. When he opened them, there was something raw and unguarded there. Come, he whispered. There's one more place I want to show you. He led her through a hidden pathway behind the house. As they stepped through an ivy-covered archway, Isabella gasped. Before her was a private garden, intimate, breathtaking, filled with roses of every color, fountains softly trickling in the background. I come here when I need peace, Sebastian said. It's beautiful. So are you. She turned to him, their eyes locking. And finally, after weeks of restraint, he closed the distance between them and kissed her. It was soft at first, testing, but quickly deepened into something hungry and passionate. All the emotions they had both been holding back poured into that single moment. When they finally broke apart, breathless, Sebastian whispered against her lips, I think I'm falling for you, Isabella. Her heart swelled. I think I'm falling for you too. Daniel made his move. Using old legal technicalities and connections, he filed a claim for financial compensation, alleging Isabella had hidden assets during their divorce. An outrageous, baseless accusation. She received the legal notice just 2 days later. As she sat in her small apartment reading the letter, her hands trembled. He couldn't stand to see her happy. He wanted to ruin her again. Tears welled in her eyes, but before panic could fully settle, her phone rang. Sebastian. Isabella? What's wrong? Sebastian's voice was calm, but edged with concern. She struggled to breathe through the rising panic. Daniel, he's trying to sue me. He's claiming I hid money during the divorce. It's all lies, but I don't know how to fight him. I don't have his resources. There was a brief pause on the other end. Then Sebastian spoke, his voice low and steady, like an anchor pulling her back to shore. Isabella, listen to me. He's bluffing. Tears slipped down her cheeks. But what if? No, his voice sharpened slightly. He's lashing out because he can't control you anymore. He thinks he can intimidate you, but he won't succeed. Her voice trembled. I'm scared. I know, sweetheart, but you're not alone anymore. He paused, then added softly, I'll handle it. Sebastian. I mean it. Let me help. The sincerity in his voice cracked something inside her. After years of having no one to depend on, The offer of protection felt foreign and healing. For the first time since receiving the letter, she allowed herself to exhale. Within hours, Sebastian had activated his legal team. His head attorney, Miranda Steele, was one of the sharpest legal minds in the country. Cool, calculated, and fiercely loyal to Sebastian. She immediately went to work dismantling Daniel's claims. By the next morning, Miranda delivered her report in Sebastian's office. Mr. Hayes, it's laughable. The documentation he submitted wouldn't survive 2 minutes in front of a judge. There's no evidence, just wild accusations and fabricated bank statements that are already falling apart under scrutiny. Sebastian's jaw tightened. Good. I want a full countersuit for harassment and defamation. Make him think twice about ever pulling this again. Yes, sir. As Miranda turned to leave, she paused. If I may say, Mr. Hayes, he underestimated her, and he certainly underestimated you. Sebastian's expression softened. Thank you, Miranda. This is personal. He glanced out the tall glass windows of his office, his mind already with Isabella. Sebastian arrived at Isabella's apartment personally, carrying a small bag in one hand. When she opened the door, her eyes already swollen from crying earlier, he immediately enveloped her in a tight embrace. It's over, he whispered into her hair. Daniel's attempt won't go anywhere. My team's already filed a motion to have his claim dismissed entirely. Her body sagged against his with relief. I can't believe you did all this for me. You don't have to face these battles alone anymore, Isabella. They sat together on her couch, sharing takeout. Her small apartment suddenly filled with the warmth of quiet companionship. He brought out the small bag. I brought you something. She opened it to find a simple gold bracelet. Delicate, elegant. It's beautiful, she breathed. It's a reminder, he said gently, clasping it onto her wrist, that you are not defined by your past, and that you are stronger than you know. Tears filled her eyes again, but this time they were not tears of fear or despair. They were tears of hope. Realizing his legal gambit had failed, Daniel grew more desperate. He hired private investigators, hoping to dig up dirt on Sebastian, anything that could damage his reputation and scare him off. One evening, Sebastian sat in his study reviewing files when Miranda called. Mr. Hayes, my sources tell me Daniel's hired someone to tail you. They're trying to find leverage. Sebastian's voice was calm. Let him try, but tighten security around Isabella. Yeah, sir. He hung up, his mind already formulating a plan. Sebastian Hayes was not a man easily threatened, especially when it came to protecting someone he cared about. 2 days later, Sebastian surprised Isabella with an invitation. There's a charity gala this Saturday. Very formal. I'd like you to be my date. Her eyes widened. Sebastian, I don't know if I belong at something like that. You belong anywhere you want to be, Isabella. But the press, the people, they don't matter. He cupped her chin gently. I want the world to see you at my side. Proudly. Her heart thundered. The thought of being publicly linked to Sebastian Hayes, billionaire and philanthropist, was daunting. But his steady gaze gave her the courage to nod. I'd love to. When Sebastian arrived to pick her up, his breath caught at the sight of her. Isabella stood at the top of her apartment stairs wearing an elegant navy blue gown that hugged her figure perfectly. Her hair was swept up, delicate diamond earrings catching the light. She was stunning. You take my breath away, Sebastian whispered. Her cheeks flushed. You don't look too bad yourself, Mr. Hayes. He chuckled, offering his arm. Shall we? As they entered the grand ballroom, all heads turned. The media whispered, cameras flashing. Who is she? Is that Sebastian Hayes' new girlfriend? Isabella clung to Sebastian's arm nervously, but he leaned in, whispering, Let them stare. You're with me. For the first time, Isabella held her head high, not as the woman who had been discarded, but as the woman who had risen. As the evening progressed, Isabella felt herself relax beneath Sebastian's protective presence. The glittering chandeliers, the murmuring crowds, the fine champagne. It was a world so different from the one she knew. Yet, somehow, with Sebastian at her side, she didn't feel out of place. Sebastian introduced her to influential figures, politicians, CEOs, philanthropists. And though some looked at her with polite curiosity, others with thinly veiled skepticism, she held her own. You handled that perfectly, Sebastian whispered after one such introduction. You belong in every room you enter. Isabella smiled, confidence blooming inside her. But as the evening wore on, shadows gathered. Across the room near the bar, Daniel stood, watching them. He had crashed the gala through a connection, hoping for one last opportunity to rattle Isabella. Their eyes met briefly, and for a moment, the world shrank to just the two of them. But where once she might have felt fear or shame, Isabella now felt only disgust. His presence no longer held any power over her. Sebastian noticed the exchange. Stay here, he said calmly, handing her his champagne glass. Before she could protest, he strode across the room. Daniel smirked as Sebastian approached. Mr. Hayes, I didn't expect to see you here tonight. Sebastian's voice was smooth, but his eyes were hard. You didn't expect to see her here. That's what bothers you. Daniel's smile faltered for a brief moment, but he recovered. She's playing you, you know. She played me for years. She's manipulative. She'll turn on you like she turned on me. Sebastian stepped closer, his voice lowering to a razor-sharp edge. No, you're angry because she slipped through your fingers. You're angry because she found someone who sees her worth when you never did. Daniel's smug mask slipped again. She's damaged goods, Hayes. That was the wrong thing to say. Sebastian's voice turned ice cold. Say another word like that about her and I will end you legally, financially, and socially. You think you've dealt with powerful men before? You haven't dealt with me. For the first time, Daniel's confidence wavered. The room seemed suddenly smaller. People were watching. You're making a mistake, Daniel said, grasping for control. Sebastian smiled faintly. No, Daniel. You already made yours the day you let her go. With that, Sebastian turned and walked away. As he returned to Isabella's side, she looked up at him with wide, worried eyes. What did you say to him? Nothing he didn't deserve. Isabella glanced toward the bar and saw Daniel leaving in haste, his shoulders tense. The silent victory made her chest swell with a new kind of confidence. For the first time in years, she wasn't running from her past. She was standing above it. The gala ended with Sebastian escorting Isabella back to her apartment. As they stood at her door, there was a weight between them, a tension unspoken, yet thick with possibility. Thank you, she whispered, for everything. You don't need to thank me, he said softly. You've been through enough. You deserve happiness, Isabella. Their eyes locked, and in that moment, something shifted between them. The connection that had been building, tentative, delicate, now pulsed with undeniable energy. He reached out, gently brushing a stray curl from her cheek. Her breath hitched. I should probably go, he whispered, though his eyes said otherwise. But she surprised him. Or you could stay. Sebastian froze, searching her face for hesitation. There was none. He leaned in slowly, giving her every opportunity to pull away. She didn't. Their lips met in a kiss that started gentle but deepened quickly. Years of loneliness, pain, and longing pouring into that one beautiful moment. When they finally broke apart, both breathless, he whispered against her lips, I've wanted to do that since the first day I saw you. Isabella smiled, eyes sparkling. Me too. The following days unfolded like scenes from a life Isabella never dared to imagine. Sebastian didn't just sweep her into his world. He invited her into his heart. Mornings were filled with quiet breakfasts on his sunlit balcony, the city's skyline glittering like a promise. Afternoons became spontaneous adventures, private museum tours, charity events, long walks through hidden gardens few people even knew existed. But it was the evenings that held the most magic. They would talk for hours about books, childhood dreams, heartbreaks, fears. Sebastian listened to her, as if her words carried the weight of the world. He never interrupted, never dismissed. His attention was whole and unwavering, as though she was the most fascinating person he'd ever known. One evening, while lying together on his oversized couch, Isabella traced gentle circles on his chest. Sebastian, she whispered. Yes, love? Why me? Her voice trembled slightly. You could have anyone. He gently lifted her chin, forcing her eyes to meet his. I don't want anyone else. But you hardly knew me. And, she hesitated. Complicated. He smiled, his eyes warm. Everyone is complicated, Isabella. But you, he ran his thumb across her lower lip. You're honest, kind, resilient. I see your strength, your softness, your courage. He paused before continuing, his voice dropping into a vulnerable whisper. You make me feel alive. With you, I don't have to be the billionaire or the CEO. I can just be a man. Her eyes welled with tears, not from sadness, but from a fullness she never imagined possible. You make me feel safe, she whispered. Sebastian smiled and pulled her closer. Then let's never let each other go. But happiness, as Isabella had learned, often invited envy. The press soon caught wind of Sebastian Hayes' mysterious new companion. Tabloids ran headlines. Billionaire Sebastian, Hayes dating divorced nobody? Isabella Reed, Cinderella or gold digger? Paparazzi stalked her at work. Rumors about her past were twisted into scandalous narratives. Her co-workers whispered behind her back. Old acquaintances resurfaced with feigned concern, secretly hoping to glean gossip or capitalize on her newfound connection. Daniel, sensing an opportunity to wound her once again, gave a bitter interview to one gossip column, painting himself as the victim of a calculating woman who used him for status and security. When Isabella saw the article, she felt her throat tighten. Tears stung her eyes, but Sebastian was already there. He turned off her phone, closed the laptop, and gently cupped her face. Don't read their poison, Isabella. They don't know you. I do. But they'll destroy my reputation, Sebastian, she whispered, voice cracking. And yours? He shook his head firmly. My world isn't so fragile, love, and neither is yours. We've both survived worse. He took a deep breath. And if this world tries to tear us apart, we'll face it together. That evening, Sebastian called a press conference. Standing before cameras and flashing lights, he spoke with calm confidence. Yes, I am dating Isabella Reed. She is an extraordinary woman, graceful, intelligent, and compassionate. I am honored to have her in my life. He paused as flashes popped. As for those spreading falsehoods about her, I caution you. Your cruelty will not be tolerated. This woman has suffered enough betrayal, and now she has my full support, both personally and legally. The crowd erupted with questions, but Sebastian raised his hand, signaling the conference was over. That night, as Isabella watched the recording of his bold declaration, she couldn't stop the tears from falling. For the first time, someone was standing for her, truly standing. Weeks passed, and the storm of gossip began to die down. Sebastian's public defense of Isabella had shifted the narrative. Slowly, the world grew bored, looking for fresher scandals to feed on. But one day, Sebastian told Isabella to take the entire weekend off. No work, no distractions, he smiled. I have something planned. Isabella tried to protest. Sebastian, you don't have to. I want to, he interrupted gently. Just say yes. She did. A sleek black car arrived at her apartment early Saturday morning. The chauffeur greeted her with a warm smile before driving her through scenic countryside roads. Hours later, they arrived at a private estate, sprawling gardens, a glittering lake, and an elegant mansion straight out of a fairy tale. Sebastian stood at the entrance, waiting, dressed in a perfectly tailored black suit. But his warm eyes and gentle smile made him look less like a billionaire and more like the man she had come to love so deeply. As she stepped out of the car, breathless from the sight, he whispered, "Happy birthday, Isabella." Her eyes widened. She had forgotten her own birthday. With everything that had happened, it had slipped her mind entirely. "You remembered?" she gasped. "Of course. But this is only the beginning." Sebastian led her through the lush gardens, the soft scent of blooming roses filling the air. As they reached a secluded part of the estate, Isabella saw a small table set under a large willow tree, decorated with candles and delicate white flowers. Soft instrumental music played in the background. They dined under the stars, laughing, talking, sharing stolen glances. And then, as dessert was being served, Sebastian stood. "I never believed I would find someone who made me feel the way you do," he began softly. "You are everything I never knew I needed." Isabella's breath caught in her throat. Sebastian reached into his pocket, pulling out a small velvet box. Slowly, he knelt before her, his voice trembling slightly, but his gaze steady. "I know what pain feels like, Isabella, and I know you do too. But together we've found something rare, something worth protecting, something worth building." He opened the box, revealing a stunning diamond ring that sparkled like starlight. "Will you marry me, Isabella Reed?" The world seemed to pause. Isabella's hand flew to her mouth, tears spilling down her cheeks. Her chest heaved with emotion, overwhelmed by love, by the journey that had brought her here. "Yes," she finally gasped, voice thick with joyful sobs. "Yes, Sebastian, I will marry you." He slipped the ring onto her finger and stood, pulling her into his arms. They kissed under the moonlight, both trembling, both free of the chains that once bound them. In that moment, neither her painful past nor his lonely success held any weight. All that mattered was them, two souls who had found each other through heartbreak, through chance, through fate. And now they would write a new story together, forever.